Welcome mga kababayan. This is Attorney Fred Bison and this is The Agenda.
Ano ba talaga ang naging issue rito?
Implement contractualization here is really absurd and ridiculous already.
Ba't ibang pananaw? Isa ang agenda.
This is Attorney Fred Bison and this is The Agenda.
Patuloy ang pagbaba ng survey ratings sina President Bongbong Marcos at Vice President Sara Duterte. Ayon sa Social Weather Station, nagsimulang bumagsak ang trust ratings ng Pangulo noong July 2024 na naging 57% mula 64%. At ito'y bumaba pa sa 54% noong December 2024. Ang trust ratings naman ni Duterte ay bumagsak sa 55% noong September 2024 mula sa dating 65% noong July 2024 at ito ay bumulusok pa sa 52% noong December. Ayon sa Pangulo ng Strat-Based and Commissioning Survey, ang malaking dahilan sa pagbagsak ng survey ratings nila ay ang growing frustration daw over the government's weak response against rising inflation. Halos hindi maawat ang pagtaas ng mga bilihin, ang kakulungan ng sapat na sahod at ang kawalan pa rin ng trabaho ng milyon-milyon nating kababayan. May magagawa naman kaya ang mga bagong mahahalal sa darating na eleksyon para tulungang labanan at puksain ang mga malalaking problema ng bayan na tila hindi matugunan ng Administrasyong Marcos. Para sa agenda, ito po si Dodi Lacuna.
At Club Filipino, ako po si Fred Bison and I am your host here at The Agenda at Club Filipino, brought to you by Impact Publishing in cooperation with Everything for Good Consulting. As in our voiceover, courtesy of Dodi Lacuna, today's episode will deal with survey ratings. And every time there are surveys, there are elections. And when there are elections, there might be some issues with when it comes to numbers. So we have seen how the survey ratings of our two highest officials in our country suffer a steep decline. So with us for today's episode are, to my right, former chairman of the Commission on Elections, one of the stalwarts in our formulation of the 1987 Constitution. He is the pioneer of our national citizens movement for free elections. His stature, his face is a brand and a trademark when it comes to election integrity. Join me in welcoming Chairman Christian Monsod, sir. Mabuhay po kayo. Good morning. And to my left, to me, he needs no introduction, having worked with him when I was still in the uniformed service. But just the same, he was the former secretary of the Department of Information and Technology. He is a convener of the Alyansa ng mga nagkakaisang mamamayan or ANIM. He is one of the petitioners of a petition in the Supreme Court probing the massive electoral fraud in 2022 national elections. And more importantly, he was my boss when I was with the Intelligence Service. Join me in welcoming Brigadier General Cabinet Secretary Eliseo Rio. Good morning, sir. Let's go straight to the point. We are talking about surveys. And when it comes to surveys, we are talking about numbers. Kayo, General Rio, being a numbers guy and, someone who is really into the accuracy and integrity of numbers and information, how do you think or what is your perspective when it comes to the trustworthiness of survey ratings?
Well, the survey companies are very trustworthy. No, they have more or less their survey jibe with results, no, of issues, especially during election. No? They more or less accurately say that these are going to be the result of the election. So we can trust the survey.
Do you agree, sir, that recent decline in the survey ratings are also reflective of the performance of this administration?
Yes, the one that was presented, there is a drastic drop of the the popularity or the acceptance of the people to the two highest leader of the land, no? And basically, this reflects the 2 years performance of the president and vice president in the way that they are handling our government.
So you think, sir, survey ratings are a good predictors and representative of what the country is experiencing right now?
Yes, depending on the question or how the survey was performed, no? But given the trustworthiness of the surveying agencies, then yes, it is a reflection of what the people think and feel. No?
Chairman Monsod, let me ask you naman, sir. Do you still think that having these surveys, especially before any election, are useful? Or should we just do away with all of these survey ratings?
Well, they are useful if they're from reliable sources, because the issue is always who conducted the survey, and have they been conducting surveys like this through the years or only recently? To me, the two most reliable are SWS and
Pulse Asia, sir?
yeah, Pulse Asia. But I read all of or almost all of these surveys, and of course take them into consideration. I do agree that there should be a reduction in the trust of government in the Philippines because of recent events. So at least on that point, I don't know if the trust of the people has really dropped that much, because it looks like a very, very dramatic drop in the trust rating. But I do agree that there is a drop, because I work with farmers. I've been practicing law for 38 years for farmers and urban poor, and I often ask them how they feel, and I think they feel the same way.
And given that there are significant declines in both the ratings of the president and the vice president, and they have fielded their own candidates for this coming 2025 elections.
Yes.
Would you consider, sir, na these survey ratings kind of preempt the will of the people, given that pag lumabas na yung survey, wala na, yung manok namin wala na, so wala nang kwenta yung boto. You know, I've heard a lot of people saying that na bakit pa ako boboto dun sa kandidato ko na wala naman dun sa Magic 12?
Well, actually, to many people, the vote is meaningless, because if you listen to them, they say, well, you know, actually, we were not all of them belong to the the rich and the powerful. And we are they are not willing anymore to go into the streets and suffer their life and livelihood in a battle among the elite, because democracy has not been meaningful to our poor. So when they vote, sometimes they both say, it's like a theater, right? What is entertaining? They don't ask, is this guy willing to die for country and for the poor? And are they people who are willing to sacrifice even their own interest for love of country? No, to them it's all a theater, right? It has not been meaningful to them since EDSA.
That's quite alarming, Chairman Monsoda, for you to say that the vote of most Filipinos is meaningless. Ano dapat ang ginagawa natin, sir?
No, democracy has not been meaningful to them.
And what do you think can be a solution so that the meaning will return to most Filipino voters, sir?
We have to start from the beginning. I think we have to go back to where we were in 1986, because the way I see it is that after 1986, let me start with this. EDSA was not only the promise of restoration of democracy. EDSA was also the promise of a new social order for the poor. And, EDSA is when we held hands or locked arms, raising our fists in the air and singing Bayan Ko in front of tanks. And everybody thought that it would be a new day, that a new social order will come. When every administration since EDSA has failed. And those of us who at one time or another were in government, we are also responsible for that failure. So when I talk to the poor, to the farmers and so on, because I go around to talk to my clients, I always apologize, because I was one of those who held office during all this time, 39 years ago to the day. And I'm part of the failure. And therefore, I'm saying it's up to you now I think, until we get rid of this feudalistic system of dynastic clans, we will not have a real democracy in this country.
2 episodes ago, sir, we talked about the lessons in EDSA, what went wrong, but at the same time, our guests at that time were not giving up on our country. Given the current landscape now, sir, do you still think that there is still hope for us to end this feudalistic and political dynastic system that we have?
Yes, but we have to start from the beginning. And I think for that we also need the church. We have to go out and tell the people that, when they talk about poverty, they say, well, the poverty rate in the Philippines is about 18 or 19%. But you read the Philippine Statistical Authority, they have a figure on the lowest income that is necessary for Filipinos to live a decent life. And it is not 18 or 19%. It's 58%. And so here we have to talk to the people and say, if you want change, it will have to be transformation from the ground up, no longer looking for that one person or angel of hope who will transform the country from the top to the bottom. No. The way to do it is from the bottom up.
Thank you, sir. And when it comes to doing things bottom up, I think General Rio, in your capacity as convener of ANIM, ano po ba yung mga latest na mga ginagawa ng grupo ninyo of 6 sectors? Civil society, academe, retired military, clergy. Ano po ba, sir, yung mga latest na ginagawa ninyo to somehow support what Chairman Monsod said about trying to end this feudalistic system?
Yes, ANIM has 3 major advocacy, no? Anti-corruption, anti-political dynasty, and pro-electoral reforms. 3 po yan na talagang doon focus ang ANIM, no? And as Commissioner Monsod said, itong 3 ay more or less ang problema ng Pilipinas. No, yung political dynasty, yung corruption, and of course, yung pagdadaya ng election. So tama ang sinabi ni Commissioner Monsod na itong 3 has to be tackled not by a leader, but yung tao. No? Because it is affecting them directly. But yun lang ang siguro ang nagawa ng ANIM is just to focus the problem of our country to those 3 issues na madaling maintindihan ng tao.
I like that one of the 6 sectors in ANIM is the church, the clergy. And as Chairman Monsod said earlier, I think the church should also contribute. Ano ba ginagawa ngayon, sir? I pretty much know what the retired military personnel are doing. But yung church, ano bang mga latest na mga ginagawa nila, sir?
Well, ANIM, I think, is now the only organization where you have the church and the military together. No? So it is a reflection of what happened in 1986. Yung nagkuhan ng ating People Power Revolution, 2 components, the military and the church. So ito yung sinasabi ni Chairman Monsod na pwede ulit maibalik ang diwa ng 1986 People Power Revolution. Importante itong dalawa na magsama para mabago or maiahon ang Pilipinas from paano. But ang problema kasi nung 1986, habang united ang church and yung military in the beginning, yung nakuha na ng ating mga tao, yung palagay yung kanilang palagay na ito na, no? So naluklok si Cory Aquino. Ang problema, ano nangyari? Ang military nag-coup. So in other words, yun ang actually nagpabagsak ng EDSA Revolution, no? Yung may mga tao sa military na gusto nila makakuha ng power.
Tumiwalag.
Yes, so ilang coup ang nangyari kay Cory Aquino?
I think there's 7.
Ilang coup ang nangyari kay GMA? So ito ay galing sa military.
Yes, sir.
No? And yung pinaka most disastrous coup na nangyari nung kay Cory is the 1989. Kasama tayo.
Yes, sir.
Sa ISAF doon. So ito yung siguro dapat kung magkakaroon ulit ng convergence ng military at church and other sector of the society, ang military dapat will no longer do illegal means of going to power. No? Yan ang danger talaga.
Well,
Go ahead, sir.
may I just say that I was a member of the Deputy Commission that investigated the 7 coup attempts against Cory. And we don't think that it is a people EDSA revolution, people power EDSA revolution. It was a revolt because it is unfinished business. There is work to be done, and you cannot call a revolution until we have a new social order. That was the dream or the vision of the people who were at EDSA. And that was also the vision of the Constitution. That's why, unlike other constitutions, we have a whole article in the Constitution on social justice. Why? Because social justice is about addressing the inequalities, economic, social, and political. That's why there are term limits, for example. And by the way, on the military, after the 1989 revolt, the military met together. And if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, what they arrived at was that the military will never intervene in the civil government and stick to the role of the military. That's why when Duterte, upon assuming office, started talking about a revolutionary government, who was the first to say, we cannot do that? That's outside the four corners of the Constitution. It was the military. And Duterte gave up the idea of a revolutionary government where he would replace himself as an elected president by a revolutionary government headed by himself.
Are you saying, sir, that you are pushing for a revolutionary government?
No. No. You know, as I said, democracy has not been meaningful to the poor. But, you know, when you talk to them, you must listen to the poor. And to them, they want change. But they want change to full, free, and credible elections. They don't like a revolutionary government. They don't like a coup d'etat, a provisional government with an open-ended term, by changing the Constitution in order to extend the terms and so on. There have been, I mean, 6, now maybe 7 attempts at changing the Constitution. And what's the underlying purpose of that? Is the extension of terms and all that, correct? So I say we are in the iron grip, iron rule of the oligarchy, and that we have to dismantle if we're going to have a real democracy.
I'll ask you, Chairman Monsod, in your capacity as a member of that 1986 Constitutional Commission, and I hope you can give us that the backstory. Why, when the commission had the opportunity to really prohibit political dynasties, there was an insertion of as may be defined by law. Ano po ba nangyari dun, sir?
Well, the discussion went like this, that we are in bad shape now. You know, when Marcos stepped down, that we needed a change. But we hoping, we said, what if we have matured 10 or 20 years from now, and we still have a prohibition on 4th degree? Because 2 degrees is the minimum, right? Of 4 degrees. Do we have to change the Constitution? That's why we were hoping and had trust that Congress will adjust the prohibition over the years as we mature, where we have not matured, right? And the Congress has not passed a anti-dynasty law in what, 39 years, right? So that's why we put it there. I will tell you, in many of my talks, they tell me, well, you know, you made mistakes, like for example, voting jointly, right? Section 1. of the amendment, we forgot to add voting separately, and that's why there was. And the member of the head of the committee on editing admitted that, because we expected to have a unicameral government and not a bicameral government. So that's the case. And I was asked, well, you know, there were mistakes. I said, of course there are mistakes, because we're human beings. We're not perfect. But I said, I think we made two mistakes, principal. One is we overestimated the spirit of EDSA, and number two, we underestimated the greed of politicians for power and the greed of big business for more money, which equals corruption.
Sir, one of the lawyers of ANIM, Attorney Lacson, his theory in this constitutional provision that includes, for the first time, the term political dynasties, it's already self-executing. Now, there's no need, because we all know what political dynasties are. That's one of his theories. And at the same time, sir, the BARM, the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, already came out with some rules when it comes to their election, saying that certain relatives are prohibited from filing certain certificates of candidacies. Bakit hindi, sir, magawa ng COMELEC natin?
Well, you know that has occurred to us, no, that the closest is really 2 degrees, and that should be assumed, that what Congress should pass a law beyond 2 degrees. That the fact that anti-dynasty in the Constitution, 2 degrees is a given. Maybe the Supreme Court can help clarify that there is no need for a law for 2 degrees.
So, given that legislative history, sir, that formulation of that term, pag sinabi nating 2 degrees, sir, di syempre, father and son, mother, daughter, kasama ba, sir, yung mag-asawa?
Yes. Actually, there are many politicians who are abusing the party list system by somebody being a congressman of the district. At the same time, the wife is a party list congressman because of the fact that there is no prohibition explicit against it.
Borrowing again your experience and wisdom on the 1987 Constitution as part of the Constitutional Commission, sir, it was an innovation that we have this party list representatives. Kayo ba, sir, given the way our party list representation has been in place in recent years, one of our guests said before, tanggalin na natin lahat yan. Would you agree with that statement, sir?
Well, I was one of the proposers of the party list system. And the reason that we put in the party list system is that there are, for example, ideologies, there are people who believe in a better plan and so on, who do not have a national constituency, but had enough for them to have, say, 250,000 in votes, which might qualify them in the party list. In other words, then it might detract already on some people saying we need to do a revolt or a revolution for us to take power. Let's listen to them. Let us listen to the diversity of thinking and even political parties in their idea of what government should be, by listening and giving them the platform to inform, and then let the people decide. And they're only 20% of the number of congressmen. Even if they go together, they cannot control the House. but at least we will listen to the diversity of views. Some of them may be stupid, but some of them may be very thoughtful and correct.
And do you think, Chairman, so that the current party list representation in Congress are doing or accomplishing the vision that you had way back in 1986?
No, they're not, because it's being abused by the politicians because of lack of that law.
Is it really more of
anti-dynasty?
Is it really more of politicians, sir, or the regulators,
Well,
or the voters?
no, it's not. It's the fault of the dynastic clans, the feudalistic system, and the way I see it, also there were two what I call defective Supreme Court decisions. We need 3 amendments to the party list system to make it work according to the intent and vision of the Constitution. Number 1 is an anti-dynasty provision. Number 2 is to take out the limit of 3 congressmen from each party. So if a party gets enough votes for 6, that party must get 6. What's happening now is that the COMELEC diverts the vote above 3 and distributes it to the parties below who to make them have enough votes to be members of Congress, even if they have a different ideology from the party who got the votes. So that must go, that limit of 3, because party list is a system of proportional representation, and that is not proportional representation. And the number 3 amendment should be, there is a phrase there that they have a marked record of what do you call it, holding or speaking for or believing in this party, and therefore they can represent parties. It became the phrase has been loosely interpreted so that it allowed the son of President Arroyo, who is a resident of Forbes Park, to represent tricycle drivers.
And he is not alone. Maraming ganun, sir, kung nakikita na certain members of powerful families being representatives of party list groups.
There should be a tricycle driver to represent them if the people give them the vote. That's precisely the purpose of party list.
Pero ang sabi naman ng iba, sir, fine, you will have a tricycle driver, you will have, let's say, a farmer, you will have, say, somebody, let's say, an OFW. Sabi ng iba, sir, wala naman silang alam sa paggagawa ng batas eh.
They'll learn. They will learn that. But we will learn their ideology and their platform and what they stand for. And that's enough. You listen to them. So if they're correct, then we will promote it. If they're incorrect, then we will not promote it.
Going to General Rio, sir. Chairman Monsod mentioned about political dynasties. I know you are really an advocate when it comes to ending political dynasties. But at the same time, nakakalimutan po natin siguro yung electoral reforms because the election process somehow allow this perpetuation of political dynasties in our country. Ano po ba, sir, ang nakikita niyong pagbabago kung meron man from the 2022 elections to this 2025?
Well, in fairness to COMELEC, no, they already disqualified Smartmatic. Maraming irregularidad na nakita natin sa Smartmatic, and it's good na disqualify sila. So we are looking at the new system, yung Miro system, na may improvement sana sa Smartmatic, but this is the first time they will demonstrate in a actual election yung their capability, no? So we are watch and see ang attitude namin ngayon, no? Because mayroon ding mga negative comment on Miro from other countries. That is on record. But we trust the COMELEC to be able to make Miro really work in the Philippines. No?
Talking about the para bang negative comments, sir, ng Miro, there's this one lawyer, Atty. Respicio, who came out, and at the same time, COMELEC Chairman George Garcia filed almost immediately a cyber libel complaint. Ano po ba, sir, ang nakikita kaya ni Atty. Respicio dun sa mga nakita ninyo noong 2022?
Well, actually, sinagot na yan ni Chairman George Garcia, no? Yung lahat ng mga paratang ni Attorney Respicio, Harold Respicio. But we are supporting him because doon sa 2022, ang sabi ngayon ni Attorney Respicio na wag muna i-connect ang vote counting machine or ngayon ay automated counting machine sa internet habang hindi pa nakapag-print ng election return. But sa guidelines ng COMELEC, that is already there kahit na noong 1922. Nasa guidelines na that the only time that you connect the VCM is after the VCM has printed 9 copies of the electoral returns, no? Pero nilabag. I mean, we have evidence now 1 p.m. pa lang on May 9 ay nakakonect na yung I think 17,000 VCM were connected. Sa globe lang ito from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. 17,000 VCMs were connected already to the internet on the day of the election, no? So yun ang kinakuha namin na pwedeng labagin kahit na nasa guidelines na ng COMELEC na hindi pwedeng i-connect. So sa record ng telco, nag-connect talaga.
So dapat, sir, ang sa tingin ninyo or ang dapat ginawa every time you have this election making use of the VCM, yung pag-connect ng VCM to the internet should happen when?
After the printing of the 9. Nasa guidelines yan. But we would want, and this is also what Attorney Respicio wants, to make it punishable. Sa ngayon, guidelines lang. Ngayon, 17,000 na presinto nag-connect before 7 o'clock, before closing, before printing. Wala nangyari. So yun ang kinakuha namin na COMELEC must make it talagang may punishment, no? Kung talagang nilabag nila this guideline.
Are you saying, sir, that what happened in 2022 na yun na nga, your group has been challenging it before COMELEC can again happen in 2025? Ibang steps na tayo, sir, from Smartmatic to Miro na tayo.
Yes, pero Miro is still also dependent on the transmission, no, sa internet. It's a private network, but it still uses the network of the telcos, the internet network of the telcos. So nandun dapat yon, and it is in the guidelines talaga na you only connect the VCM modem to the internet after you have printed 9 copies, no? Pero yung walang force Yun ang sinasabi ni Attorney Respicio. Gawa ng persa yan para kung sinong lalabag dyan, ma-imprison.
Bakit kaya, sir, nung you've been saying this all along during the 2022 elections, hindi naman kayo nakasuhan, sir. Pero si Atty. Respicio, kaso kagad. Bakit kaya, sir?
Well, I really don't know. Na kay George Garcia yan. Ang nakikita namin is that more or less yung sinasabi namin, no, since 2 years ago, may mga ebidensya. No? For example, yung mga na-transmission at 1 p.m., nasa records ng telco. Hindi nila mabura yun. No? Nasa records na 1 p.m. pa lang, Globe and Smart already connected to the internet in 17,000 precincts.
Yes.
No? So ano ito? Ano ito? Ang explanation ng COMELEC when we said that ito daw ay mga test transmission. Why are you going to conduct a test on the election day itself? All tests must be done before, di ba? And nasa guidelines din yan ng COMELEC.
May sagot na po ba yung COMELEC dyan, sir, after several
Wala, yun
years?
lang ang huling sagot. No, these are not VCM transmission, but these are the test transmission of servers. Ay, there are only 2,000 servers in the that was used in the 22 election. Ay, bakit may 17,000 transmission of different devices? No?
Yes, sir. One last question, Chairman Mansod. If you'll be given the power to change one thing in how COMELEC does its activities and its functions as an electoral poll agency, ano yung gagawin niyo, sir? What would you do?
You know, when Cory asked me to head the COMELEC, at first I refused because Heidi Yorak was there, and she's an excellent commissioner. But when Heidi was interviewed, she said, "No, I don't mind Chris Mansod as chairman because I know they cannot twist him." So I accepted, and we worked beautifully together. But what I did was I went around the country. All the COMELEC officials and so on were Marcos appointees. So I went around the country and I said, I will not replace anybody. All of you stay in place. Do your work. I want only one gift from you. Free, fair, and credible elections in 1992. Nobody is going to be kicked out. I'll work. I know you have a reputation of not knowing how to count. But please, this time, do it. And in Isabela, there was a COMELEC official who stood up and said, "Sir, kami po ay mga sangang ilog lang. Kung ang tubig po na nanggagaling sa bukal ay madumi, madumi din kami. Kung ang tubig po na nanggagaling sa bukal ay malinis, malinis din po ang sangang ilog." So sabi niya, "Kayo, chairman, kayo po ba malinis?" So I said, that is a very courageous question. But it is a good question. So sabi ko sa kanila, you just watch me perform in the first 3 months. It's about June 1991, May elections. And if you believe that I am clean, will you give as a gift to the people free, fair, and credible elections in 1992? And all of them said yes. And they said yes all over the country. We adopted the motto, listen to the people, work with the people, serve the people. Like that. And they delivered the first peaceful transfer of power in 27 years. So the trust rating in the surveys showed that the trust rating of the COMELEC at the ground level is higher than the trust rating at central office. So I was asked, "Sir, what do you think of that?" I said, "The elections are delivered at the ground level and not at central office. That is a correct survey." So, I believe that there are good and bad people in every administration, and it's up to us to look for the good ones and make their acquaintance and so on and believe. Just a few weeks ago, there were in Bugsok in Palawan, there's a big issue there on the ownership of the land in San Miguel is preventing or against some of the people getting land, especially indigenous peoples. And their bodyguards had guns, and they were oppressing the people and, using force against them. So I called up somebody in PNP, and I said, pakitulungan nga ninyo yung mga tao dun sa Buksok dahil ito nangyayari. And the next day, the provincial commander of Palawan called me and said, "Sir, what can we do for you?" And I said, "Protect the farmers from the goons." And they did. They did. So I believe there are good and bad people in government. And it's up to us to look for them. And that will help us to achieve real change in our government, working with them.
Thank you, sir. And on that note, I think we'll open questions to our media guest. Go ahead, please, sir.
Check. Morning po, Chairman and Yusek Rio. I have only a question po. Medyo mag-iba lang ako ng question po, Chairman, with your indulgence. Pero political naman po. As one of the framers of the Constitution, there is an issue right now na ano po ba talaga ang ibig sabihin daw ng forthwith na nakasaad po sa section or Article 11 po ba ng Constitution? Because there are contradicting views, even legal luminaries. Hindi magkapareho ang kanilang definition doon sa ano po ba yung forthwith, yun ba ay immediately or maaari ba siyang antala dahil walang session ng Senado? Pagka naibalik na ba ang session ng Senado ay consider pa rin ba siyang forthwith? From the horse mouth, ika nga, Chairman, ano po ba ang intention talaga ng atin pong saligang batas? Bakit po nilagay yung salita na yun? Maraming salamat po.
What do you think it means to proceed forthwith? If you look at the dictionary, it says immediately. That's what it says. So, when I hear about this, I like to say that the Article 11 of the Constitution on the accountability of public officers, I was the chairman of the committee in the commission, and we precisely put this separately from the other tasks of the Senate, because this is not legislative task in nature. It is not. It's a special power mandated by the COMELEC and addressed to the senators. And it does say that they must proceed immediately. Why? Because the purpose of this provision and this article is to protect the people from the people they have elected who have violated public trust. And those people, that means that, and then if you take a look at the Constitution, in Section 2, Section 1 of Article 2, it says that sovereignty resides in the people and all government power comes from them. So this provision, this article, is to protect the people from their agents and servants who have violated their trust, right? And they should immediately be kicked out of government. There's not even any punishment of jail or anything like that. It is just take them out of office and disqualify them from running from any office. That's the purpose of that provision. The primary purpose, not to punish them. It is to protect the people. And that's why it must be interpreted immediately. I was asking, who were the senators who refused to act immediately? Please name them for the sake of the public information so that we will know what they feel. And I feel that they wanted to postpone the trial because they're afraid that their true self would be revealed in the deliberations of this impeachment trial. And so they might say something there that will turn off voters. In fact, I'm surprised. I am told, and I have to verify this, that one of the senators said, "Why do we have to hold that? I'm going to vote against it anyway." That's a violation of the Constitution. And so I said, eventually people are answerable for the mandates of the Constitution they ignore or what they act against. And that should happen. In our system of checks and balances, the Supreme Court may get involved in that. But the final word on it are the people themselves, on who they will vote for. And I think that many senators did not want to reveal their true selves in participating in the trial.
Pwedeng follow up.
Go ahead. That was an excellent question, by the way.
Chairman, with your indulgence again. So, big sabihin ho, ano po talaga ang dapat ngayon? Dapat nag-convene na ba ang Senate as impeachment court and commence yung trial?
Yes, they received the articles of impeachment on February 5, right? And they said that they will have to make the rules of the impeachment trial and so on. There have been so many of these things. So they have these 3 or 4 versions. All they need to do is take a look at that, amend a little, refine it, and there is no excuse that after 4 or 5 weeks they still have not come out with the rules. They're deliberately postponing the trial on the request of senators. That's why I want to ask, who are these senators? And the people should know.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sirs, hello, good morning po. Hannah po from Billionario. First off, sir, thank you so much for the very good insights given na isa po kayo sa framers ng 1987 Constitution. Sir, yes po. Sorry. Go ahead. Ayun, sir. Tanong ko na lang din po, follow up po dun sa question ni Kuya Dante. So ngayon, sir, would you say that the Senate body is facing a constitutional violation given that they're not convening immediately?
You're talking about the case in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, actually, they file sila ng manifestation kahapon about the petition of VP Sara seeking to nullify her impeachment proceedings. Sinabi nila na, well, not explicitly, but manifestation na i-excuse sila dun sa pag-comment dun sa petition. Would you say, kasi kayo na po mismo nagsabi na immediately?
Well, let me tell you, in November 2024, November 2023, we already filed a case regarding the 125 million that President Marcos gave to Vice President Duterte out of his contingency funds. We said that this is unconstitutional because there's no item in the budget of the Vice President to which it can be applied. That's the 125 million that she spent in 11 days. And that was number one that was being debated in, or what Congress was looking into. That our petition has been pending for so long, and the Supreme Court has not acted on it. There are 2 others who followed us, one filed by the group of Justice Carpio and the other by Nery Colmenares. All of these 3 cases have not been acted upon by the Supreme Court. Now, of course, you've heard about the study published by Cambridge, haven't you? They studied the voting of 86 justices on 70 mega cases from 1987 to 2021. And the average vote for the president or the administration, and probably the appointing power, the average vote of the 86 judges was 69%. They then studied the voting record of the justices appointed by Duterte, and their voting record is 94% in favor of the government. So we you know, in the Supreme Court is the key to the systems of checks and balances in our country. And I think we have a good Chief Justice. But 13 of the 15 justices today were appointed by Duterte. But, you know, in a democracy, when we talk about appointed and elected officials, the source of legitimacy of elected officials is the vote of the people. The source of legitimacy of appointed officials, like the Supreme Court, is their independence. So let's see how independent the Supreme Court is in these cases of impeachment.
Okay po. Sir, follow-up lang po about that. Sorry, if I may po. Sir, so does that mean wala namang constitutional violation na hinaharap ang Senate? Given that they still do not convene as an impeachment court? Yes po ba?
She's asking, sir, given that the Senate is not acting on the articles of impeachment forthwith based on the Constitution, are they committing a violation of the Constitution?
Yes. And by the way, interesting that the House as well may also be held accountable for the fact that there were 3 impeachment charges filed in December, the 2, 4, and so on, and under Section 2 of under Section 3, Paragraph 2, I think, of the Accountability of Public Officials, when a charge is received, it must be sent to the record of business within 10 session days, and after that, within 3 session days, it should be referred to the Committee on Justice. The House did not do that for those 3 impeachment charges. In fact, Secretary General Velasco admitted that he postponed it because he was told, please hold that because there's another one coming. So the House violated that provision in the Constitution on the process of those charges. And therefore, there is also a provision that impeachment proceedings initiated cannot be done within 1 year of each other. And that is the petition of Vice President Duterte in the Supreme Court, that the fourth impeachment charge that now is supposed to be the articles of impeachment for the trial, there is no need to under the Constitution, there's no need to discuss that if it is filed by 1/3 or more. And that's the case. And therefore, the question is, I think the case of Vice President Duterte would be interesting to follow, right? What will the Supreme Court do with respect to that case? And so both the House and the Senate have avoided or not are liable for not obeying the mandate of the Constitution, and they should be held to account for that.
Thank you, sir. One last question for today. Due to time constraints, go ahead, please.
Hello po, Diane po from Inquirer. Going back po to election survey results, ano po yung malaking implikasyon nito sa dadating na halalan sa Mayo? And kung patuloy pa pong bumaba yung mga result nila sa survey ng Marcos Duterte, ano po yung magiging implikasyon din sa mga susunod na taon or election?
Well, with respect to the farmers and the urban poor that I work with, I don't think that surveys like this is going to influence them much on what to do. I think they will vote in accordance with their own feelings about it. And as I said, many of them think it's just entertainment because all those elected since EDSA have not fulfilled the promise of a new social order.
General Rio, sir?
Yes. If you come to think of it, itong May 12 election is really Duterte versus Marcos. No? Yung tama si Chairman Munsod, no? Yung kung ilang mga senador ang ma-elect para impeachment or ilan ang ma-elect against impeachment will of course determine the fate of Vice President Duterte, no? So yun ang nagiging focus ngayon, hindi na yung mga basic issues ng kabuhayan, kahirapan na nangyayari sa ating bansa. So that's the danger there. Yan ang sinutukoy na yung mga nasa baba, yung mga farmers, ordinary kan, ay hindi na sila masyadong concerned sa election dahil alam nila labanan ito ng dalawang dynasty. So ang aming sa anim, yun ang aming isang pakay, no? Na mawala yung political dynasty at yung corruption din ay isang issue rin, no? Yan ay nawawala ngayon sa election na ito. Ang election ngayon ay tungkol kung ma-impeach o ma-convict si Sara o hindi.
Thank you po.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll depart from our usual program by allowing our chairman to say a few closing remarks given the questions and topics discussed for today. Go ahead, Chairman Monsod, sir.
You know, when I speak to the schools and the church and business and so on, my first point is this. You want change. Now, do we agree on the ends? Because if we don't agree on the ends, then we disagree also on the means. Now, what is the ends? The ends is a new social order and the dismantling of the feudalistic system of dynastic club. Now, so my question always to that audience is, are you willing to sacrifice for love of country and of the poor, to sacrifice something of yourself, of your benefits, in order to achieve this? Because we are told that sacrifice is the currency of love. Number two, I asked, for example, the students at the SAL, Ateneo, Adamson, and so on, and I said, how many of you attend your barangay General Assembly twice a year so that you'll know what's going on in the barangay, so you know who are the good people, especially from the poor, who should run? Because they're afraid to run against the mga bata ng dynastic clans. And what are you willing, do you listen to what's happening to them? Why? Because, we need you in order to have change in this country. We have, my point is, what did the pandemic show us? The pandemic showed us that it is possible, the communities where those who had the means were helping those who were in need. This was happening in the pandemic. This is very inspiring. And if this, we must spread this out. We must use this because it shows that transformation is possible from the bottom up instead of from the top to the bottom. And now third, my point is our country is a need for heroes. And I'll read this. Not the superheroism of Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela or Ninoy Aquino, but as ordinary, everyday heroes, described by the author Philip Zimbardo as people who have the courage to expose fraud when we see it, or to say no to complicity in wrongdoing, or the hardiness to be difficult or different, to do what is right when it's easier to conform. And those of us who have been in power, and those, the privileged class, the elite of this country, should say, we should serve not because we are privileged, but because it's a privilege to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Monsod, for your valuable time. General Rio, thank you for your time as well. I know that given the message of Chairman Monsod, you are one of the ordinary heroes that our country is looking for. In keeping with... Oh, no less. He is not just an ordinary hero. He is now a superhero for just doing this thing since 1988. So with that, thank you everyone for joining our show. And mabuhay ang Panginoon, mabuhay ang Pilipino, mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.